So good morning dear students, I welcome you for the chemistry class. Today in this particular video, I'll be discussing about the conditions required for combustion and how to control fire. First is the conditions required for combustion. So there are three important conditions. The first one is it requires fuel. So combustion only takes place when there's a fuel which produces heat and light when it catches fire. For example, petrol, diesel, etc. And combustion requires air. So we can also prove this with an following experiment. A candle keeps burning in an open air. However, when it is covered with a glass jar or with any sort of watch glass, it only burns until the oxygen inside is being consumed. So once the oxygen is consumed, it gets exhausted, the flame of the candle flickers off. The third important condition is it requires heat. So we have to know what is ignition temperature for this. It's the lowest temperature at which a substance catches fire or starts burning. The substance must reach its ignition temperature to catch fire. So for every substance there will be a ignition temperature, a particular temperature to catch fire. So it's a minimum temperature at which the material catches fire. So if the temperature of the combustible substance is lower than ignition temperature, then the substance will not burn. For example, cooking oil catches fire when a frying pan is kept for a longer time, so long on a burning stove. Kerosene oil and wood do not catch fire on its own when you just keep it at room temperature. But if kerosene oil is heated a little bit, then it will catch fire. But if the wood is heated a little bit, it would not still catch fire. Ignition temperature of different materials. So there are few materials with the ignition temperature. White phosphorus, it's 35 degrees Celsius. Petrol, it is 246. Kerosene, 220. Diesel, it is 210. Wood, it is 300. Coal, it is 454. And piece of paper, it is 233. Coming to ignition temperature, it's a minimum temperature which a combustible substance must be heated before it catches fire. So we can see that a combustible substance cannot catch fire as long as the temperature is lower than its ignition temperature. For example, ignition temperature of the phosphorus is 35 degrees. So unless phosphorus is heated to 35, it will not catch fire. However, if the temperature of the air is 35 or more than that, phosphorus will catch fire without heating. Similarly, kerosene, oil, and wood, as we discussed in the previous slide, said do not catch fire at room temperature. But if it is slight heating, kerosene oil will catch fire but not wood. So what it concludes? So this shows ignition temperature of the kerosene oil is lower than wood. So why is a person caught in fire is covered with a blanket? If the clothes of a person catches fire, is immediately wrapped in a thick blanket, the blanket cuts off the supply of air, that is a supporter of combustion, and hence the fire is puts off. Why does a fire goes off when water is poured over burning wood? It happens because water absorbs a large amount of heat energy, which results in fall in temperature of the wood below its ignition temperature, and the fire goes off. How do we control fire? We have seen at many places like at homes or shops or factories caught in fire. How can the fire be controlled from spreading? Generally, water is used to control fire. Water brings down the temperature of the combustible substance below its ignition temperature. The water vapor surrounds the combustible material, thus helping in cutting off the supply of air. So, fire is extinguished. The fire produced by burning of oil or a petrol, an inflammable substance, cannot be controlled by throwing water because we know that water is heavier than oil. It settles down the oil and oil continues to burn. In such cases where kerosene oil has been used, where it has been caught fire, so it can be controlled by throwing sand or soil over it. We cannot use water. Fire can be controlled by removing one or more of these requirements of this fire control. The fire extinguisher also try to cut off the supply of air or to bring down the temperature of the fuel or both. The combustible substances as such cannot be eliminated in most of the cases from the place of the fire. There are various types of fire extinguishers used to control a fire. The job of fire extinguisher is to cut off the supply of air or to bring down the temperature of the fuel. Soda acid type extinguisher. So it consisting of two cylinders. The outer one itself made up of metal which contains baking soda, that is sodium bicarbonate solution, and the inner cylinder is made up of glass which contains sulfuric acid. So both cylinders are bounded by a common knob. So when the knob is pressed, the glass cylinder breaks and both chemicals, including baking soda and sulfuric acid, are mixed. They react. As a result, carbon dioxide comes out with a great pressure. So this cuts off oxygen supply and fire gets extinguished. In this process, the carbon dioxide produced is in the form of gas. The second type is foam type fire extinguisher. It contains two cylinders. The first one, again, the outer one is made up of metal, which contains baking soda. The inner cylinder is made up of glass, but here it contains aluminium sulfate. So both cylinders are again bound by a common knob. When the knob is pressed, the glass cylinder breaks, then both chemicals react, baking soda and aluminium sulfate. As a result, carbon dioxide gas is eliminated out. It liberates with a great pressure, and this cuts off oxygen supply and fire get extinguished. So in both the cases what we see, so we can use water. So whenever the things like paper and wood has been burnt, but in case of electrical appliances or with any fire from means of kerosene oil or petrol, we cannot use water. In spite of that, we can use carbon dioxide as a fire extinguisher. Coming to inflammable substance. So these are the substances which have very low ignition temperature and catches fire easily. Example, petrol, LPG. Forest fires are the result of which type of combustion and why. Forest fires are the result of spontaneous combustion because of following factors. So there will be a presence of combustible substance and the presence of right ignition temperature and the presence of supporter of combustion in air. So in the next class, we'll study about types of combustion. Thank you. Have a nice day.